All set? Mic check. 1 2 1 2. All right. How's everybody doing today? So today will be a great talk from Pastor Green. Welcome to From Saggy Pants to Red Ties, as we have presented here on the screen. My name is Fardan Allen. I'm currently the new Academic Success Coordinator in the Academic Success Center, working with Talent Academy, which is a Males of Color Success Initiative. And I'll be serving as your moderator today. Thank you for joining us, first of all. During this session, we will have a Q&A at the end of the session. The presenter will answer your questions at the time, so please wait for questions at the end. And I'll just give a brief background about Pastor Green. Berners Green Sr. is a school administrator and pastor in Rochester, New York for over 30 years. He has worked in the school district he attended, from which he successfully graduated as well. For the last 20 years, he has worked extensively with young men of color and founded a distinguished Males Academy, which I was a part of as well. Berners continues to promote the importance of males of color graduating from high school, in addition as a pastor. He leads community efforts to support all stakeholders to make a difference in children's lives. Berners is currently pursuing a doctorate in executive leadership at St. John Fisher University. And not to forget, he's also inducted into Brockport's Athletics Hall of Fame. He's been inducted in 2014, if I'm not mistaken. And I heard he could jump out of the gym. But just to give a brief backstory, not too long ago, I was able to go back to number 9 school and talk to the Boys Academy over there and just give my good feedback and also life perspective about, how as men of color and young men, we need to pursue higher education and, be respectful to your parents and things like that. And when I came back from playing pro football overseas, I was more than happy to share my knowledge and wisdom with the young men. And I also have my pro football jersey hanging up in this guy's office. So he is a very special person to me. And, give a good round of applause and warm welcome to Pastor Berners Green.
Thank you. Bless you, man. Bless you. All right. Wow. To see that young man standing here is touching, very touching to see him standing in front of you and seeing him as a young man running through the hallways. And, as educators, we sometimes don't get a chance to see the end results of some of our students, but to see Fernand up here just introducing me and the work that he's doing here at the college, I am just proud. I'm excited, I'm proud, and thank you for such a warm welcome. Thank you. I begin my presentation today by first I want to just share my brief story. And I think once I share, I can't tell it all, but share just a brief story, I think that you will understand the passion that I have for the work that I'm doing today with the young men there in the city of Rochester. I was born to a family of sharecroppers from Georgia and Alabama. My family moved to Rochester before I was born. I was number 15 of 16 children. I enjoyed spending most of my childhood at the neighborhood recreation center. I remember rushing home from school and taking off my school clothes and running straight to the North Street Recreation Center. And my young men, they are also watching this. I know they're having a kick out of that picture right there. I love playing basketball and spent many hours shooting and dribbling, and I just enjoy that space Most of my brothers and sisters were much older than myself, and they had children actually older than me. I had nieces and nephews that were older than me at the time. My house was, I recall my house being crowded and chaotic a lot. My neighborhood was drugs and gangs and violence, but somehow I felt safe at that North Street Recreation Center. Many of my friends made bad choices, and that's why I tell my boys today, we have a thing when I say life is about what? They'll say choices. So many of them didn't listen, and some were shot, killed, and some of them I see today, they're on drugs. However, I remember a man named Gene Williams. He worked at the recreation center. He saw something in me, and he built a relationship. We were able to build a bond. He was my coach, and he supported everything that I did. I remember playing basketball and football, and I can look out and I'll see Mr. Williams. He mentored and taught me how to navigate barriers that I was going to face, that I was facing. According to statistics at the time, I wasn't supposed to graduate from high school. But because of his mentoring and caring and the relationships that we built with one another, I was able to go on to high school, be successful in high school, and I would be the first out of 16 children of my parents to go to college and graduate from college. Who would have thought? A young man from Rochester, spent most of his time at the recreation center, and from a neighborhood full of poverty and violence and gangs, would be in the position that I am in today. Able to come to this wonderful university, receive a bachelor's, master's, receive my certification as administration, and even this July, if all goes well, I'll be defending my dissertation to receive a doctorate. Thank you. So I stand before you today understanding what some of the young men are going through in our communities today. And I remember the people who have invested in me and the relationships that I was able to develop over the years, and how important that was to me. And I try to be of value, be a blessing to all of the young men that I encounter today. I try to encourage them. I try to let them know that life is about choices. Life may not always be easy, but if you hang in there, if you work a little hard, if you work hard and do what's right, in the end, you can achieve, you can accomplish anything that you want to do. And that's what these young men are doing, as an example here with Fanon right now. And so, let me move on. According to President Barack Obama, the most severe challenges in the 21st century facing the United States are young men and boys of color. And so we know that the school-to-prison pipeline is perpetuated when young men of color consistently fail to graduate from high school. And when they consistently fail to graduate from high school, there is a gap. There is a gap in wealth, health, social freedoms, and overall quality of life. Boys of color are born with equal potential, but somehow they find themselves in an unequal world. There's no misunderstanding in the data. Young men of color are not graduating from high school at an equitable level. White peers consistently outpace young men of color academically. And over the past 50 years, billions of dollars have been spent to close this academic gap, but yet the gap consistently increases. Therefore, there is an urgent call to collective action throughout the African American community regarding educational and social needs of young men of color. Responding to this educational calamity requires the commitment of our community, parents, educators. All stakeholders play a role in decreasing this gap. Sustaining a sense of urgency and collaboration between all stakeholders is imperative if years of neglect, years of continued educational injustice is to be dealt with. And so, look at this picture. You have young men there. They're dressed. They have on their red ties. They're excited about school. They want to be in school. They feel a sense of belonging in school. They're excited. But we do know that according to national statistics, that only 59% of them would graduate from high school. In the district, when these young men were in 8th grade, the district that they were in, the graduation rate for these young men was 39%. 39%. Look, happy, excited, want to be in school, but yet, statistically, in their district, only 39% of them would have graduated from high school. And nationally, 59%. And so we know that boys of color perform at the bottom of the American educational ladder of success. We know that young men of color, only 59% of them would graduate from high school. We know that young men of color are, only 12% are proficient in reading. Young men of color are 3 times more likely to be suspended from school, making up 66% of all the students that are suspended or expelled from school. Now, there are many arguments around why young men of color are not graduated from high school. There's many arguments. And unfortunately, some educators buy into racial stereotypes that young men of color don't have the mental capacity to graduate or the mental capacity to perform well in math and science. There are some stereotypes that falsely suggest that boys of color are lazy. They can only excel in athletics. That they are rebellious, bad-mannered. That they come from environments that don't value education. But these beliefs are rooted in racist opinions, overlooking the success stories of so many young men of color that are doing well, like Fred, and like so many of the young men that I'm going to talk to you about today. So do me a favor, just nudge the person next to you and say, it can be done. That was my church coming out right there. Educating boys of color require a closer look at school systems. Effective schools provide boys of color with interventions that understand learning styles, culture, mentoring needs, and a desire to be heard, seen early in their educational experience. And schools that have had success takes a hard look at themselves for these failures instead of shifting the blame to unfounded stereotypes and myths. Now, this is the fun part. I get to talk about these young men. I get to tell their story. And they're listening right now. Some of the young men are now have careers, some are in college, some are sitting in the classroom right now that I'm working with, and they are listening right now. This is their story. That's my boys. And every day we have a thing that we say, I will achieve because I believe with hard work and effort, I will succeed. So just a brief history. I can't tell it all, but just a brief history of how the Boys Academy started. As an assistant principal 20 years ago, my first year, I was sitting in my office, and I had big plans. I had a vision of how I was going to be the best assistant principal. I had it all laid out. I was going to be in classrooms, I was going to be supporting teachers, and I was going to talk about the best practices and all of those things. In the first week as an assistant principal, I noticed that I was so tired. I was spending all of my time with discipline. You know, Mr. Green, 3rd floor, Mr. Green, 2nd floor. And I'd spent so much of my time dealing with young men with discipline. Some was standing here in my office, and some was standing there, and my office was full, and I'm like, listen, I can't do this for years. And so what I did that summer, I went home and I looked at the data, and I noticed it was about 15 to 20 boys that made up 60-something% of all of our suspensions for that year. I said to myself, that's it. If I can work with these 15 to 20 boys, get them straight, then I'll be able to do some other things. All that summer, I found out those boys. I began to call them over the summer and work with their parents. I found out if they was playing football and basketball. I went to church. I found out what church they went to, and I noticed that they would sit in church all day and don't have any problems. And I noticed all of these things that they were doing, and I began to just really reach out to them and build relationships. And I had a young lady by the name of Shannon Costanzo. She's about this tall. And we worked together, and we really tried to build relationships with these young men. And they came to school, and I said, I want you all to dress up, and I want you to come in, I want you to get sharp, and I want you to pull them pants up. And we worked together, and they came in, and I noticed they just really, they loved it. They loved, Mr. Green, can you give me a tie? Can you give me a shirt? I don't have a blazer. Can you give me a blazer? They was just loving it. And they would walk through the halls, and they would just walk with their head up, and these were young men that were getting in trouble all the time. But just by spending some time and building relationships and just supporting them, it wasn't like just big secret. It was just time, relationships. The same thing that Mr. Gene Williams did for me, I began to pour out into these young men. And what we noticed is that they responded. And other young men in the building who wasn't part of that, they came to me like, Mr. Green, how can I be a part of that group? How can I want to be a part of the boys. And I'm like, no, I don't think you want. Yes, I want to be a part of that. And they just kept coming and coming. And so we went from 15 to 20 boys the first year until we went to 80 boys the next year. And we expanded out. We went from each grade level had a cohort of young men, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th. So we get to 6th grade, and those young men that were at 6th grade, it was time for them to go to middle school. And one young man said, Mr. Green, why do we have to go? Why do we have to leave? And I thought about that. I said, what you want to do about it? Those sixth grade young men, the same ones that were in trouble and causing problems and all, they went down to their school district and they talked to the school district and they advocated for themselves. And the district agreed to let them stay for seventh grade. And then they were seventh graders and they were like, why we have to leave? I was like, I don't know, what you want to do about it? And those seventh graders went downtown and they advocated for themselves. And the next thing you know, we was at 3 through 8, 120 boys. And they were just excelling. They were doing very, very well. And so that's just a brief history of how the Boys Academy started. Again, I can't tell it all. It's much to the story. So they went from saggy pants to red ties. What do you mean? They went from their pants sagging all down and pulling up their pants and putting on their shirts. They just felt good about themselves. And you're going to hear their stories of how wearing their uniforms and their red ties made them feel special. Just a little statistics of how it worked. Those young men, if you notice, see if I can pull it up here. If you notice, it's okay if I come out? I know we recorded. They went from 65 suspensions in and out of school the first year. After we continued working with them, with the Boys Academy, and pouring into them, notice the next year they went to 28 suspensions and went down. And that cohort that really began to advocate for themselves, it went to 15. And by the time they were 7th and 8th graders, there was no suspensions at all. Absolutely none. And even now, it's very few, if that any, suspensions. Because we need them in school. We need them in front of teachers. We need you in the classroom. And the brothers advocate for one another. They'll tell each other, I need you. I need you to be here. So, increasing the graduation rate. That's what we're talking about. Remember, 12% of boys of color are proficient in reading? What did we do in the Boys Academy? We developed a system. I went and I advocated and I talked to some teachers that were retired and I said, I need you to come back to my Boys Academy because I want to do something different. They said, what you want to do? I said, when these young men leave me to go to 9th grade, I want them to have 3 high school credits. Because I noticed that what happens when they get to high school, if they get behind, it's very difficult to get caught up. And so they end up behind, never able to catch up, and the next thing you know, they don't graduate from high school. So when these young men left me, I wanted them to have 3 high school credits. I wanted them to be ahead of the game. And so every young man that left as an 8th grader, when they left, they had 3 high school credits. They had a math, science, and a foreign language credit for high school when they left. And they excelled. I'm talking about these were 8th graders that was doing 9th grade work. And so here it is again. 59% graduation. That first group, 92% of them graduated from high school. And that's right, come on. 92% of them graduated from high school. And the district at the time was 39%. The next cohort, 96% of them graduated from high school. Yes. So it can be done. Pull them pants up, young man. They went from saggy pants to red ties. Every young man in this picture graduated from high school except for one. And come on. And the young man that didn't graduate, right now he's a successful entrepreneur running his family auto mechanic shop, doing very, very well for himself. So we're building leaders. The boys participate in many events outside of the community. They serve food, and they had to do certain community service, each young man, because we wanted to work with them as well-rounded young men. They had experience. We wanted to expose them to all different things. We took them on trips, and it was amazing how some of them had never been out of the city of Rochester. But we began to expose them to many different things. Trained peer mediators. These young men went from needing mediation to being the ones that were given the mediation. So they're sitting there, they needed the mediation, but now they're trained mediators, and they're mediating for other students. Buddy systems with their younger brothers and sisters in kindergarten. Participate in college visits throughout the community. Summer learning opportunities that we've provided. I wanted to go year-round with you. I didn't want them to have no space. And so even here at this college, this wonderful college, they provided summer opportunities for these young men to come. You may have seen them here on the campus prior to COVID. They gave us Hartwell Hall. And these young men went. That's some of their pictures. And we spent 6 weeks here on the campus where they were able to be exposed to college life. And when they left those 6 weeks, I could hear these young men saying, I want to go here. I can go to college. I love it here. So just exposing them to all of these different things and opportunities supported them to graduate from high school. So when these young men leave, we have them to do what we call an exit essay. In this essay, they talk about their experience as a young man, as a boys' academy, their ups and their downs. And so what I did, I just kind of took some excerpts from their essays, and I want to share some with you. Juan, who's now a police officer, working to be a police officer here in the city, was one of our boys' academy. This is what Juan had to say.
My experience in the Boys Academy was intense. When I first entered the first door in 7th grade, I was very nervous and anxious to see the environment that I was being a part of. I felt that I wouldn't fit in, but instantly I felt comfortable because the staff treated me like family.
Here's Divine, who's now an entrepreneur with health and fitness. That's what he had to say.
Before coming to the Boys Academy, I would always get in trouble and fights over little picky things. But once being in the Boys Academy, Ms. Costanzo taught me how to handle my problems without using my fist.
Here's Krishan. Krishan just received a 4-year scholarship offer for the University of Syracuse for lacrosse. This is what Krishan had to say.
Attending the Boys Academy really showed me the reality of life. The Boys Academy prepared us to become young men.
Here's Quincy. Quincy is now in the United States Navy. And I can't tell you what he does, but he's doing very, very well for himself. So Quincy had to say.
The Boys Academy has helped me by giving me ways to control the problem. It also helped me to change who I am. I will continue my life helping others in a positive way.
And here's Nelson. He's a firefighter for the city, part of the Boys Academy. This is what he had to say.
After being in the Boys Academy for 2 years, I can consider my peers to be brothers.
So, what is the focus? Focus for the academy is to first, we want to be reading at grade level. We want to boost that up. And especially now after COVID, we're really struggling. We're really trying to get them back up to their reading level. We want to provide our teachers with professional development and what they need to understand how young men learn. And we do something different with these young men. They're not just sitting in their seats and the teacher's up teaching them all day, but we provide opportunities for them to get up and move around. They have a couple gym periods throughout the day where they can go down and run and exercise, and when they come back, they're ready for their teacher. But this is through professional development and teachers understanding what young men need to be successful in the classroom. Providing social emotional support. The young lady, again, Shannon Costanzo, she spends a lot of time with them, just talking with them, and she have an open door policy where they can come in and talk about their issues, talk about what's going on at home, talk about anything that may impact them for that day. Again, it's more, but I just got to move on. All right. Establishing routines and rituals. When you walk into one of these classrooms, the first thing you do when you walk in, every young man will stand up and they will stand at attention waiting for you. If you get a chance, come by and visit. When you walk in, they'll stand up. The young man will come to you. He would say his first and last name. He would say what year he's going to graduate from high school. If you see any young men at any point, the first thing they're going to do, first and last name, and the year they're going to graduate from high school. I want that in their brain. We have a red tie celebration. Every young man in the Boys Academy that's not a sixth grader want that red tie. And we have a celebration every week. It's kind of like the changing of the guards in D.C. where they change their posts. We change where the president of the Boys Academy take off his tie and he place it on a student of red tie. Building that culture of celebrations, building that culture within you matter, building that culture where your voice matter. If young men feel like they're being heard, you got something then. Attendance. We want you in school every day. If you're not there, we're calling. I'll come get you. No, you're not staying. No, let's get up. It's to the point now where sometime I'll have parents call the school and say, Mr. Green, he won't get up. Come and get him. And I'll go get him. And I'll bring him because we need you in school every day. Student and parent engagement. We want our parents engaged. We want parents a part. Parents are such a great part of our academy's success because they support what we're trying to do. And providing a safe environment. We know the environments that our young men are coming from, but we want them to know that when you come here, we're family. When you walk through these doors, you are part of something special. And we want to provide that space for them, a safe place where they can, again, be heard and share their thoughts and feelings. We want them on track for graduation, preparing them for college or special trade. Whatever they want to do, we just want to support them. And then removing those stereotypes and begin to build relationships with these young men. Here's Christian. Christian is a 5th grader in my Boys Academy right now. But Christian had a visit from his brothers like Ferdinand and some of the other ones I'm going to talk about. And that inspired him to work really, really hard. When they come back and they talk to their younger brothers, they say, you got to work hard. Listen to Mr. Green. Do what he say do. Get those grades up. And when he heard this, that inspired him. And now listen to Christian.
Hi, I'm Christian, class of 2030. I'm here to talk about how the Boys Academy has made me a better brother, leader, and student. It's made me a better brother by showing me apart we can be broken, but we're stronger together. It's made me a better leader by showing me leadership qualities. It's made me a better student by taking me where I'm supposed to be in 5th grade and putting me in 6th grade and pushing me above my limits. Thank you, Boise Academy.
Notice he have on a red tie, but he's a 5th grader. Because he worked so hard, I'm not going to hold you back. I know you can handle 6th grade. He's now a 5th grader, but he's in 6th grade. Here's Ayub.
Hello, I'm Ayub Muhammad, class of 2030, and I'm going to tell you the number one thing Boys Academy has taught me. I shall always go for my dream, never give up, and even all the members of Boys Academy, even my brothers, have taught me that I will succeed.
Building relationships. It's all about relationships. Do they understand? Do they believe in you? Do you care? Do you show you care? They can tell if you really care. They know if you really, are you going to be consistent? They have so many people in and out of their lives, so many promises that have been broken, so many weekend plans that have been canceled, that never happened, that was supposed to happen. Are you going to be consistent in their lives? Are you going to be the one that's going to say, I love you, and mean it, and be consistent? If we want to improve graduation rates, if we want young men to do better, we have to build relationships. This young man came to the Boys Academy. He was quiet. He wouldn't do anything. He was kind of like passive aggressive. He wasn't like just showing out, but he wouldn't do nothing. He was just sitting around. I don't care. I don't care. You can say I ain't doing nothing. I don't care. Like, what you mean? I'm not doing it. But there was something under the surface. I had to figure it out. We had to work together. Ms. Costanzo and I had to work. Ms. Jackson, we all had to work together to figure out what we was going to do for this young man. He graduated not as a senior, but he graduated as a junior. And when I went back and pulled this exit essay, this is what he said.
My experience in the Boys Academy was thrilling. When I first started in the 6th grade, I was nervous. I thought I wouldn't fit in. Then I felt staff was treating me like family. My peers encouraged me a lot. The Boys Academy prepared me to be a young man. I used to not talk a lot. I was kind of off to myself, but my brothers encouraged me to speak out more. I even ran for class president. I did not win, but it taught me to get in front of people and express myself. I will miss the Boys Academy, but like Mr. Green say, once a Boys Academy, always a Boys Academy.
Building those relationships comes down to relationships. What are you going to do? What are we going to do? Not just as a school community, but as a community whole. How can we mentor? How can we support these young men so that they can be successful? Remember, nudge your neighbor. It can happen. This young man, I brought him out here to the campus. He looked around. He was like, Mr. Green, I'm going here. I'm coming here. I'm coming here. Watch. I'm coming here. I said, you are? You are? He said, yeah, I'm coming here. I'm going to the school right here. And this young man, he used to get in trouble all the time. He had some anger issues. He can go from 0 to 10. But I saw something in him. all he needed was a connection. And once we made that connection, his grades increased. His attitude changed. He became our Boys Academy president. He excelled in basketball. He was so good that he couldn't come to Brockport. He ended up going to a prep school. This young man right here. We had to build relations. We had to build them up. He ended up going to a prep school and going out in Indiana and got a scholarship to Washington University. He was so good. Now, he's a starting power forward for the Detroit Pistons. Started in the Boys Academy. Early. Building those relationships. Helping him to understand that if you just work hard enough, if you just keep at it, don't give up. Make good choices. Good things will happen for you. And now when he come back to the Boys Academy, he's like 6'8", 6'9". He walked through there, the young men look at him like, wow. And he said, you know, I sat right there in that chair. Listen to Mr. Green. Do what he tell you to do. Make good choices. And they'll say to him, they'll say, do you know how to introduce yourself? He said, yes, I know how to introduce myself. I did it for 5 years. He said, my name is Isaiah Stewart, and he gave his class, just like they do today. Those rituals, those routines, that culture is embedded in them. So therefore, as I close, here's Isaiah.
My experience in the Boys Academy was absolutely amazing. I have grown and matured to be the person that I am today. Before the Boys Academy, I used to get into trouble all the time. But we learned that life is about choices. I began to make better choices. My brothers and I learned how to rely and count on each other. Mr. Green and my teachers helped me to get through tough times. They were always there for me.
This is in his exit essay when he left. So, boys of color are not just athletes. They're more than basketball players. We need to encourage them to be our future leaders. That's right, that's right. The most crucial game that boys of color will play is the game of life. And the same thing that makes them great on the course or whatever surface they choose will drive them in life. Every young man can achieve in life with the proper support and preparation. These challenges are not just a responsibility of their surrounding communities, but this is an American responsibility. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. And I'll take a few questions. So we're going to do that. All right, young man, they're watching me. They back at the school. I'm just waving at them. Yeah, sure. You want, come.
First, I want to say thank you. That was an amazing presentation, and it's just, as a mother of young black men, it's so encouraging to see this work being done. So thank you for the work that you're doing.
Thank you.
I have two questions.
Yes.
First, I would love to hear a little bit more about the peer-mediated program that you guys do. How you train, is there curriculum, or just a little bit about that? And then I would love to hear a little bit about the summer learning opportunity that you did here at Brockport.
Yes, yes. First, the peer mediation. What we did is that I felt like the best way to learn something is to teach it. And so what we wanted to do, even though they had some issues themselves, and they were still struggling with some decision making and peer pressure and all of those things, we began to train them. It's a peer mediation program that we do. And so we began to train them on what they were being mediated on. And so as a result of that, they were learning how to control their anger, how to deal with peer pressure, how to deal with different situations that came up. And so as they were being trained, it was being internalized in them. And we noticed a difference in their behavior after we began to train them in what they were have to mediate with others, if I answer your question. And so with the certain learning opportunities, which is amazing, first of all, we have our second graders who are coming in to our new, so it's all new to them. So the summer opportunity gave me an opportunity to work with them, their parents, and begin those rituals and routines that we talked about earlier that summer. And so they came out to the campus. All of the boys came out to the campus. The campus was amazing. They opened up Hartwell Hall, that floor, and we had worked with the alumni house, and even the community around here provided lunch for our young men as well. And so they received, they had their writing, reading, math. Also, we were able to incorporate some physical activity with them. So it was like a summer program with academics and, they say, fun. They loved it. And we were able to, again, continue we was able to avoid that summer loss and really work with them from where the teachers left off with them in June to continue working with them throughout the summer. So when those teachers got them back in September, they were ready to rock and roll. Yeah. So thank you for that question. Any other questions? Yes, sure.
Pastor Green, thank
Yes.
you so much for being here.
Thank you for having
me. I went to school number 9, I went to school number 8, and I wish we had that program when I was going to school, even for the young ladies, right?
Yes, that's right.
Because we need it as well.
Absolutely.
My question is, have you thought about expanding your program to other school districts or even just other schools? Because you have such success, I would love to see it.
Yes.
And, just expand.
Yes. Expanding. Well, right now I'm trying to expand, trying to do some other things within the school district to expand, because right now we're back to grades 3 through 6. And I would love to go back to 3 through 8 because those middle school years are so important. And so we're noticing that the students that we had up to 8th grade are doing much better than the students that are leaving us at 6th grade. So most definitely, I think that this is something that we can expand throughout the school district. I would love, if they're listening, I would love to talk with other principals and different ones throughout the school district to try to support them to set up an academy. And the system have to support you as well, because you can't do this without the support of everyone involved. So, yes, I would love to expand it. Great questions. What else? Again, thank you all for having me and sharing about these young men. They're doing wonderful things. They are so excited. They was just waiting to see, and they got a chance to get away from some of their work today to listen to me. All right, talk about them a little bit. And so thank you all for having me today to share our story. Thank you.
Let's give another warm welcome, a round of applause for Mr. Green. I don't know about y'all, but these words definitely touch me, because I am a product of, the MLK Boys Academy as well. It was called the Boys Group when I was there, but I'm glad it expanded to the Boys Academy. And, thank you all for attending today's session. You will be receiving a survey once the conference has concluded. We ask that you please complete it. We look forward to reading your input about the program. So thank you all for attending today. And once again, thank you, Pastor Green.
Folks, we have